I am Elise Whitmore, a 31 years old woman. I live just outside Charleston and recently ended a long relationship, the kind where you think you know who you are until the silence after teaches you otherwise. What happened next changed everything. The day I found out something was wrong didn't start with a scream. It started with a ringtone. That soft, chiming kind of ring I'd set for unknown numbers, a sound I usually ignored. But that morning, something in me stirred. Something said, "Pick up." It was a woman named Cheryl from Charleston First National Bank. She asked to speak to Lauren Whitmore. "My sister." I frowned. "You've got the wrong number." Long pause. "Is this the primary contact listed for the mortgage at 111 Greenwillow Lane?" That address made my stomach tighten. Lauren's new house, the one she'd just miraculously gotten approved for despite years of credit card debt and job hopping. I said slowly, "No, I'm not listed on any mortgage." Another pause. Then Cheryl's voice shifted, careful, cautious. "I'm sorry to bother you. We may need to follow up through legal counsel. Thank you for your time." Click. I stared at my phone like it had just cursed at me. That was the first moment. The moment I felt the floor beneath me slide half an inch to the left. Not enough to fall, just enough to realize something was wrong. I called Lauren immediately. No answer. I called again, then texted. "Hey, weird call from a bank just now, can you call me back?" She replied an hour later. "All good, must be a mix-up, love you." The emoji felt like a bandage slapped over a bullet wound. That night, I pulled out my filing cabinet. I'd never looked at my credit report before. Always paid bills on time, never applied for anything wild. My life was boring in that way, reliably, safely boring. But when I opened the report, my hands started to sweat. Because there it was. Mortgage application, Charleston First National. Applicant, Lauren Whitmore. Co-signer, Elise Whitmore. Except I'd never co-signed anything. I sat there frozen, unable to even blink for a moment. My name, my social, my signature, all forged. I remember packing my living room like a ghost that couldn't figure out which room it died in. I kept whispering to myself. She wouldn't do that, she wouldn't. But deep down, some part of me, some ancient part of me, already knew she would. Because Lauren always found ways to slip out of her mistakes. And I was always the net that caught her. We hadn't always been like this. There was a time, a very long time ago, when she was just my little sister with the jelly-stained hands and that wheezy laugh she had when we watched cartoons together. But things started shifting after college. She dropped out. Borrowed money. Started lying about jobs, about apartments, about guys who used her but never stuck around long enough for me to meet. I kept helping. Because that's what big sisters do, right? Until now. I called my lawyer the next morning. Sheila Harrow, I'd met her through a coworker during my breakup. I told her everything. She didn't gasp. She didn't comfort me. She just asked, "Do you want to burn it all down or fix it by the book?" I said, "I want the truth to cost her something." She smiled without smiling. "Then let's start with the documents." We pulled the mortgage files. Every signature, every form. And there it was, page after page of my name, my details, my life stretched like a skin over her lie. The signature didn't even match mine perfectly. It was a loopier, messier version, like someone trying to forge with a memory, not a model. It felt disgusting. Like someone had worn my face without asking. Shayla made a plan. We'd send a formal request for investigation to the bank. We'd alert the credit bureau. And we'd prepare for a quiet but forceful response. But more than that, we'd file to have the property title reassigned. Because if she bought that house using my name, then legally, it was my house. I didn't tell Lauren I knew. Not yet. Because some part of me wanted to watch her live inside the fantasy she'd built out of my trust. I wanted to see how far she'd go. How long she'd sleep peacefully in a bed she'd stolen. That weekend, she posted an Instagram story. Caption: Closing day manifested baby. Dizzy Housekey #boss move first home vibes. I watched the video twice. Her smiling with a set of keys. Spinning in her driveway. Blowing a kiss to the camera. And then she turned to show the house. Green Willow Lane. Mine now. Even if she didn't know it yet. And that's when I stopped crying. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't going to be the sister who forgave. I was going to be the sister who fought back. The night I decided to see her face to face, I dressed up a little more than usual. A soft cream blouse. Light makeup. Pearl studs Dad gave me after I landed my first HR job. Not because I wanted to impress her, but because I wanted to feel composed, polished, like I wasn't the one hiding anything. Lauren picked the restaurant. That little Italian place downtown with the white Christmas lights strung up year-round. She used to wait tables there during her off semester back in community college. Back when she still needed to work. She was already seated when I arrived, sipping red wine like she belonged in a magazine ad. "Oh my God, you look amazing," she said as I sat down. "You too," I said, lying better than I ever had in my life. The server came and took our orders. She ordered calamari and lobster ravioli, like someone who had money again. I chose a simple salad. My stomach wasn't ready for anything more. We talked about Mom. Her new garden. How the hydrangeas were struggling in the heat. We talked about a TV show we both hated. How the new season was so fake. We even laughed a little, that short, shallow kind of laugh you do when you remember what it was like to be real sisters. And then I asked, "How's the house?" She beamed. "Oh, Liz, it's gorgeous. I mean, I wake up every morning and I still can't believe it's mine. You know, like it finally feels like I've caught up to you." That part landed like a nail behind my ribs. Caught up to me. She didn't catch up. She cut corners with my name. She didn't climb. She clawed. She went on. Talked about the flooring. The kitchen reno she wanted. How the neighborhood had a wine club and I already made friends with the girl across the street. Her name's Candace, she's a riot. I nodded, chewing slowly, letting her believe this dinner was casual. Normal. Unloaded. But inside I was documenting every sentence. Every detail that confirmed what she'd done. She was living in it. Comfortably. Without guilt. Without even a shadow in her eyes. And that's when something inside me went cold. Because I realized she didn't just steal from me. She believed she deserved to. Toward the end of dinner, she leaned forward. "There's something I've been meaning to say," she said. My breath caught. But then she smiled too wide. "I'm proud of us, you know, we've been through hell and look at us both standing on our own feet." I stared at her, stunned. And somehow I managed. "Yeah, we always land on our feet." She paid the bill. Kissed my cheek. Promised we'd do it again soon. Then she walked away, purse swinging, heels clicking confidently down the sidewalk like a woman with a future. And me. I sat there in that empty booth, napkin still in my lap, and realized. She didn't suspect a thing. She didn't know about the investigation. Or the lawyer. Or the forensic review of her mortgage documents. She thought I was still her audience. Still her fallback. Still her fool. The next morning, Sheila called. "We're ready to file, you'll be listed as co-owner, and then we move forward with the title claim." I looked out the window at the drizzle, the way the water ran in streaks down the glass. And I said, "She's not going to see it coming, is she?" "No," Sheila replied. She's going to think it's a mistake until it's not. And that's exactly what I wanted. The paperwork went through on a Thursday. No confetti. No court date. Just a notification from Sheila with the subject line. Title transfer filed, you're now legal co-owner. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like holding a mirror to someone's crime and saying, I saw you. That weekend, Lauren posted a story of herself repainting the guest bedroom. Soft lilac walls. Candles lit. Acoustic music playing in the background. Caption: Manifesting peace sparkles. She was manifesting peace. In a house built on lies. She still didn't know. Not until the letter came. Certified mail. Signature required. I imagined her standing at the front door in fuzzy socks, holding her coffee, signing the paper without reading the envelope. Because Lauren never read the fine print. Not even when the fine print was about me. 3 days passed. Silence. No calls. No text. Then a ping. Lies, did you send something to the house? I waited an hour. Then replied, yeah, check the papers carefully. Nothing for 2 more days. And then came the storm. My phone rang 6 times in a row. I didn't answer. The voicemails started. What the hell is this? Are you trying to destroy me? I thought we were past this. Lies, call me, please, you don't understand what this will do to me. Each one more frantic than the last. The next day, I was sitting on my back porch sipping iced tea when she showed up. No warning. Just the crunch of gravel under tires, and then her car, crooked in the driveway like a panic attack. She stormed toward me in flip-flops and mascara-smudged eyes. You filed a claim on my house. I didn't even blink. Correction, our house. Her face froze. She opened her mouth, closed it. You're not serious. I am. For the first time in years, I watched her struggle to find words. She wasn't used to me holding the power. You have no idea what you're doing, she spat. Oh, I do, I said calmly. I'm correcting a lie with truth and the law agrees. She sat down hard on the porch swing. This will ruin me. I sipped my tea. No, you did that when you forged my name. Silence stretched between us. Long, uncomfortable. And in that silence, I saw something shift behind her eyes. Not regret. Not shame. Fear. That's when I knew I had her. Not just legally, but psychologically. Because she realized she wasn't smarter than me anymore. She tried to recover. We can fix this, let me refinance, I'll pay you back. I tilted my head. All $425,000. Her voice cracked. No, but I can start. I stood. Lauren, I'm not interested in installments. I'm interested in accountability. Then I walked inside and closed the door behind me. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Because she finally understood. This wasn't a threat. It was a sentence. Signed. Filed. Unfolding. 2 weeks later, her lawyer contacted Sheila. They tried to dispute the filing. Claimed it was emotionally motivated and vindictive. But the documents didn't lie. My social. My signature. My stolen credit. It wasn't vindictive. It was truth. And the law was on my side. By the end of the month, Lauren had 2 choices. Sell the house and split the equity with me. Or surrender full ownership through a negotiated quitclaim. She picked the second. Because she knew. Dragging this out would only hurt her more. The day the deed transfer finalized, I drove past the house. She was standing on the lawn. Cardboard boxes stacked by the mailbox. A man I didn't recognize helping her lift a lamp into a hatchback. She didn't say me, but I saw her, and I didn't feel proud, or smug, or satisfied. I just felt done. I didn't steal her house. I just took it back. The knock came at 9:12 a.m. on a Sunday. Soft, hesitant, like someone knocking on a door they used to walk through without asking. I already knew it was her. I didn't rush, didn't straighten my robe, didn't even put my coffee down. When I opened the door, Lauren was standing there in leggings, a loose hoodie, and that look she used to wear as a child when she broke Mom's vase and blamed the wind. She didn't speak right away. I let the silence stretch, one of the many small powers I'd taken back. Finally, she said, "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. She walked in like a ghost returning to the scene of her own crime. Her eyes scanned the space, probably noting how little had changed since she left. Same curtains, same rug, same faint scent of lavender and lemon from the diffuser I bought with my first paycheck. But everything felt different now. She sat down across from me on the couch, clutching her hands together. "I'm not here to fight," she said. I need a little time." I raised an eyebrow. "To do what?" She swallowed. "To stay one more month, just until I find something else. Everything's moving so fast and I..." She stopped, voice cracking. For once, she didn't finish the sentence with a fake smile. "I'm not asking for the house, just a few more weeks, please, Lies." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the magnolia tree in the front yard was in bloom. It only blossomed once a year, for a short time, like it needed the world to earn its beauty. Behind me, Lauren sat frozen, waiting. There was a time I would have jumped at this. Any sign of vulnerability, any crack in her voice, I would have rushed in to soothe, to save, to say, "Of course I understand." But I wasn't that sister anymore. I wasn't here to rescue her from a storm she built herself. Still, I turned and looked her in the eye. 1 month, no guests, no parties, you pay utilities. She blinked as if surprised I'd say yes at all. Then she nodded, tears swelling. "Thank you." I didn't say "you're welcome." I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for closure. To watch her live in the space she stole, knowing every breath, every step was borrowed. The next day, she moved back in with 2 suitcases and a laundry basket. No fanfare. No Instagram posts. Just a quiet arrival through the back door. She didn't bring much, probably sold half of it, or left it with the guy who'd been helping her move last time. I didn't ask. We barely spoke. We became awkward housemates, sharing walls but not conversations. She cooked quietly, cleaned obsessively, paid the bills I forwarded without delay. And every night I heard her crying through the guest room wall. Not sobbing, not dramatic. Just that silent kind of ache, the kind that leaks out when you think no one can hear. One night, 2 weeks in, I came home from work late. She was sitting in the kitchen with a single candle lit and a cup of chamomile tea. She looked up and said, "You were always the strong one." I paused, jacket still in my hand. "No," I said, "I just got tired of being weak for the both of us." She nodded. And in that nod, there was something that almost looked like understanding. Or maybe just defeat. The next day, she asked if I'd help her look at apartments online. I said no. Because this wasn't a bonding arc. This wasn't a forgiveness montage. This was accountability. And sometimes that means leaving people to sit in the mess they made long enough to recognize the pattern. On the 29th day, she knocked again. This time with a printed lace in her hand. "Got approved for a 1-bedroom near the marina. It's small, but it's mine." I took the paper, scanned it, and said nothing. She stood there awkwardly, waiting for something. A smile. A hug. Maybe a final softening. Instead, I said, "Good, you move out tomorrow." She didn't cry this time. She just nodded, turned, and walked away. And as I watched her go, I felt something strange. Not relief. Not triumph. Just air. Room. Space where resentment used to live. The next morning, the house was empty again. Except this time it was mine in full, legally, emotionally, spiritually. I walked barefoot through the hallway, touching the walls like someone who'd returned to their own body after years of borrowing someone else. And I whispered into the silence. She's gone. But part of me knew. She left more than boxes behind. She'd left ghosts. And they'd take time to exorcise. It was 3 weeks after she left the house. I hadn't heard from her, not a text, not a DM, not even a passive-aggressive comment on one of Mom's Facebook posts. And I was fine with that. I was learning to exist without scanning every notification, every phone buzz for her name. The weather was shifting into early spring, my walks were longer, my sleep was deeper, my smile, rare but real, returned in small moments, like during laundry or standing in line for coffee. Then her email arrived. Subject line, "Can we talk, please, just us?" My stomach tightened. I clicked it before my mind could warn me not to. Hey, I've been thinking a lot lately. I know I can't undo what I did. But I want to talk face to face. Not to fight, just to explain. I owe you that much. A few years ago, I would have melted. I would have replied instantly. Offered a coffee shop time slot. Maybe even baked banana bread. But now I stared at the screen for almost an hour. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally had the power to decide if I needed to say anything at all. Still, curiosity got the better of me. Or maybe it was closure. I told her to meet me at the Riverside Cafe. Neutral ground, public. No chance of drama escalating in front of witnesses. She showed up looking muted. No makeup. Loose jeans. Hair tied back in a low ponytail like she hadn't had the energy to style it. But her eyes, still calculating. We sat in silence for a moment after ordering. She tapped her cup, I folded my hands in my lap. Then she spoke. I messed up, lies bad. I said nothing. I was scared. I thought if I just got ahead for once it would all even out. I didn't think it'd get this far. I still said nothing. I guess I just thought you'd be okay, you always are. There it was. The central myth of our relationship. Lauren's subconscious thesis. That I could be taken from because I'd survive. You didn't apologize, I said quietly. She blinked, I just did. No, I cut in, you explained, you justified, you tried to make me see your fear, but you didn't say you're sorry. She leaned back, crossed her arms. I thought it was obvious. It's not. A long pause followed. She sighed. Then in a tone almost theatrical, she whispered. I'm sorry, Elise. But the way she said it didn't land. There was no shake in her voice. No regret pooling at the corners of her mouth. Just performance. She reached for her purse. Pulled out a small envelope. I wrote you something, been working on it since I moved. I took it out of politeness more than interest and placed it on the table without opening it. She watched me like a hawk. You're not going to read it. Not right now. Why? Because I don't trust what's in it. Her face hardened. What do you want from me? It was such a familiar question, one she'd used to deflect blame in every fight we'd ever had. But now I had an answer. I want peace, and I get to choose what that looks like now. She didn't like that. Not because she didn't understand, but because it meant I had become untouchable. She tried one more time. The voice softened again, the hands unclasped. We were close once, do you remember, Mom's surgery, how we slept on that hospital cot together? You brushed my hair when I had that breakdown in college. You knew me." I nodded. "I did, and that's exactly why I can't let you close again." Her mouth opened, then closed. She stood abruptly. "Enjoy the house," she said bitterly. "I hope it keeps you warm at night." "It does," I replied calmly. "It's not built on lies anymore." She left without another word. The envelope sat there beside my untouched latte. I stared at it for a long while. Then, without opening it, I tore it clean down the middle. Because whatever version of me she wrote that letter for, that girl didn't live here anymore. That night I stood on my porch, wrapped in a shawl, watching the stars blink in the clear sky. I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a quiet boundary. A locked door. A delighted message. A life moved on. I hadn't heard from Lauren in weeks. Not since the cafe. Not since I tore the letter in half and tossed it into the trash without reading a word. Part of me thought she was done. But Lauren was never done unless she ended the chapter. She never liked being written out of someone else's story. So when the email from HR came through, I already knew who was behind it before I even opened it. Subject line: Request for internal review, conflict of interest allegation. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't catch. I just sighed. Because it was so her. The next morning, I was called into a meeting with my department head and a rep from Human Resources. I work in commercial real estate, not exactly the Wild West of drama. But when someone files a complaint claiming ethical violations and improper asset acquisition, it gets attention. My boss, Kent, sat across from me, brows knit. The HR woman, Trina, read from the file. An anonymous individual submitted documentation claiming you used fraudulent information to gain property ownership while employed here, potentially leveraging internal access or business contacts. I laughed. Quiet, bitter. Because now she wasn't just trying to shame me, she was trying to erase every piece of success I'd rebuilt. I took a breath. Looked Kent in the eyes. I know who submitted it, I also know what it's about, and I have all the legal documents to prove my actions were 100% personal and unrelated to this company. He nodded slowly. We figured as much, but procedure is procedure. So I handed over the folder. A copy of the mortgage agreement. The police report. The signed affidavit from the notary confirming Lauren had impersonated me. The title transfer agreement, all of it. Trina flipped through the pages with clinical calm. Kendo. He looked angry. Not at me. At her. I know family can be complicated, he said finally, but this is sabotage. I nodded. She doesn't know how to lose quietly. After the meeting, Trina sent a formal clearance notice within 24 hours. I kept it in my inbox, starred. A quiet shield against whatever Lauren thought she could throw next. But the truth, it still shook me. Not because I thought I'd lose my job, but because it reminded me. Lauren didn't just want the house. She wanted my name ruined too. That night, I poured myself a glass of red wine and sat on the floor of my living room. The room felt bigger lately. Not just because it was mine, but because I no longer lived under the weight of her unpredictability. And yet there was still that ache. That whisper. Why is she like this? I thought back to when we were little. She used to draw fake contracts with crayons, handing them to me like treasure maps. Sign here, she'd say, and I'll give you half my candy. I always signed. She never shared. The signs were there all along. But love, it makes you overlook the handwriting on the wall, even when it's written in red ink. 2 days later, I saw her name flash on my caller ID. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. So now you've poisoned your job against me too. That's low lies even for you. Low, coming from the woman who stole my identity. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. Because I wanted her to know. I heard her. I just didn't care anymore. Weeks passed. The lilacs bloomed outside the window. I took walks with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. And then came something I didn't expect. An email from Trina. Subject line: Ray, investigation closed, additional information. Inside was a small attachment. Lauren had tried to submit a second complaint. This time under her real name. Claiming I had coerced her signature. That I'd emotionally manipulated her into signing over the deed. But Trina had already flagged it. She wrote, "Just wanted you to see the pattern in case anything escalates further. We're documenting it, you're in the clear." I stared at those words. You're in the clear. And for the first time since this all began, I believed it. Not just legally, but emotionally. I didn't know the letter came from her at first. It was in a plain white envelope, addressed in slanted handwriting I hadn't seen in years. It sat on Mom's kitchen table, unopened, untouched, next to a pile of grocery coupons and a half-completed crossword puzzle. Mom had called me over for coffee that morning, like she did most Sundays. The sun had just started warming up the garden. The air smelled like toast and jasmine. She looked up as I walked in. "There's something here from Lauren," she said softly. "I haven't opened it, I didn't know if I should." I stared at the envelope. No return address, no hint of drama. But I could feel it. Like static before a storm. Mom didn't ask me to read it. She just slid it toward me, her fingers hesitant, as if afraid it might burn her. I took it. Carefully. Opened the flap. Unfolded the paper. And read. "Dear Mom, I know I'm not the daughter you hoped I'd be. I've made mistakes, some huge, some unforgivable. But I want to come home. I want to fix things. I know Elise hates me. I know I hurt her. But maybe if you could talk to her. Maybe if you could help her understand." I stopped reading. Because the rest. It wasn't apology. It was a request. A setup. She wasn't asking Mom to hear her out. She was asking her to take sides. Mom looked at me, eyes wet but steady. "What do you think I should do?" I placed the letter on the table. Folded it back into its envelope. "Nothing," I said, "you don't have to do anything." She bit her lip. "But she's still my daughter." "I know. And you're my daughter too." I smiled, but it was the tired kind. "Which is why I'm going to answer it, not you." That night I sat at my own desk. Pen in hand. Blank paper before me. And I wrote. Not to attack. Not to accuse. But to close. "Lauren, I read your letter." Mom didn't, I asked her not to. Because she doesn't need to be pulled into our battlefield. She's been through enough. You say you want to fix things. But fixing doesn't start with someone else doing your talking. It starts with action, with silence, with letting wounds breathe without forcing them closed with tape. I forgive you. But that doesn't mean I trust you. And it definitely doesn't mean I want you back in my space, my peace, or my plans. If you really want healing, start with yourself. Not with Mom, not with me. Just you. I signed it. Folded it. Slipped it into the envelope she used, the same one I'd carefully resealed. And I mailed it to her new address. Mom never asked what I wrote. She didn't need to. That Sunday, she hugged me a little longer. Held my hand while pouring sugar in my tea. And when I looked at her, I saw the silent gratitude in her eyes, the kind only mothers can give, without ever saying a word. The letter was never answered. Not with words. But a week later, I saw Lauren had posted a new photo on Instagram. A quote graphic, white text on black. Sometimes people disappear from your life. Not to punish you, but because they've finally chosen peace. She had no caption. No tags. Just that quote. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel triggered by her silence or provoked by her subtext. I just felt free. I started hearing things from mutual friends. Quiet whispers. Lauren says you're being cruel. She says you changed after the inheritance thing. She says you're cold now, distant. I didn't respond. Not because it didn't sting, it did. But because I'd come to understand something essential. People who can't control your choices will always try to control the story about you. Yes, I had changed. Yes, I had become colder. Not because I turned into someone heartless, but because I was finally protecting the warmth I used to give away too freely. When I was little, Lauren used to call me her sunflower. Because I'd turn to her always. Even after storms. Even when she plucked my petals one by one. But sunflowers stop blooming in winter. And she had given me years of frost. One day I found myself alone on the porch of my home, her old home, watching the horizon shift from orange to dark blue. I had a steaming mug of tea in my hand. And a new kind of peace in my chest. No phone in sight. No drama lurking. No messages begging for resolution. Just silence. Safe silence. I thought about all the things I'd lost. Trust. Time. The version of sisterhood I used to daydream about when we were girls. But I also thought about what I'd gained. Self-respect. Stillness. A life that didn't depend on someone else's emotional weather. Lauren kept talking. I heard she started a blog, ironically titled Healing from Family Trauma. She used vague anecdotes, no names. But everyone who knew us could read between the lines. One entry was called, "When Your Sister Weaponizes Success." Another, "Gaslighting in a Glass House." And the worst, "When forgiveness is just a fancy word for ego." I cried the first time I read them. Not because she hurt me, but because she still didn't understand. She wasn't writing to heal. She was writing to win. But I no longer played that game. So I stopped reading. I muted the channel. I blocked the links. And I went back to building my own life. A few months later, I was promoted at work. Regional lead. More responsibility. More money. And strangely, more ease. Because the only chaos I had to manage now was my inbox. Not my bloodline. At the company awards gala, I gave a short speech. Nothing grand. Just a few words about resilience, gratitude, and change. When I stepped off the stage, Kent pulled me aside. "That was powerful," he said. "It felt personal." "It was," I replied with a smile. "Do you ever think about reconnecting with her?" I looked him dead in the eyes. She chose distance, I chose peace, we both got what we wanted. He didn't ask again. No one did. Because everyone could see it now. I wasn't cold. I was clear. Later that night, sitting alone in my room, I opened an old photo album. Lauren and I in matching overalls, ages 6 and 8. Blowing bubbles in Grandma's backyard. Both smiling. Both innocent. I touched the photo. And for a moment, I mourned the girl she used to be. The one I loved. Before ambition became greed. Before love became leverage. Before family became strategy. I didn't hate her. Not anymore. I just didn't belong to her world. And she didn't belong in mine. So when people say I'm cold now, I smile. Because it's true. And it's the only reason I survived.